Kyle here from All Media Reviews. Here to do a video, a few things. I made a video last week, and I posted this on the community page, and then about the Deer Hunter film um, tour, 2023 tour documentary, um, and it didn't come out. The recording stopped or something. Like a couple minutes of it. I got a new CD, although I got some more stuff coming in the mail. I show it on that one of the new CDs, but I'll save that for the next like collection video. Um, so I guess I'll just go over it quickly. I hate when this happens when you have to when you write something or film something or record something and then you have to redo it. That's what happens in Hollywood, of course. You have multiple takes, but it was it was a week ago. You know, I saw it was last Thursday, a week ago Thursday, and then they ran it again through the pillar. Um, I guess I can add some spoilers. You know, granted, part of it is the fact I saw it a week ago and I didn't really write any type of review down. Um, but it's not a real. It does show footage from their tour of 2023 supporting the migrant return released. Um, but it really takes a twist. And I mentioned this when I recording did come out, but Casey and they did the Q&A afterwards. I saw that was on Thursday. Friday they did some streams, both afternoon and evening, but um they didn't really, after doing it for I guess for a few days or something. He's like, do I really just want to do a standard cliche predictable, in this case it wouldn't be a biography documentary on the band, but it's a documentary on the tour, so it's sort of still cliched, a tour documentary. He's like, no, probably he finds that boring. He would find that boring. So they came up with some other ideas to do. They brought in this person to basically play a character named Gleep, an actor named Dustin. Justin. There was the director of this film is named Justin, and then there was a guy in it. So what happened was, after they showed footage they showed a few performances, including one of them. It was with like crazy with Casey's mother and maybe his like sister or someone else from his family, two female singers. And they showed different clips of different songs on the tour, and they sped them up. But they meet Glebe. Glebe is this person he sees like an ad for on his computer. He's written this novel called it's a real novel by the actual person playing him. Um Valley of Frankenstein, which I thought of Valley of the Dolls, that was a film that Roger Ebert directed. But um so he's calling him up. It's like, would you want to write something about our tour and all this stuff? And he's like a journalist, but he's channeling kind of like Borat and like Hunter S. Thompson in a way. It's not nonsense, but he's got like a middle, like a Baltic accent, kind of like the guy from Gogo Bordello. And or like I said, like Borat, like kind of like that. And then the reality starts to be twisted, and band members start to disappear. And ever since Glebe started hanging out with the band on the tour, and they're paying him a little money. And then there's stuff with like animation, which looks like cheese kind of to me, like blocks of cheese, but it's animation that's done. And yeah, like they're using effects with visuals, like lights and stuff like that. And the band members are playing themselves, obviously, but at the same time, they're kind of, in some ways, in characters. They have a meeting at some point when Casey's like, "Well, even if you guys don't want to do this, I have to pull rank on you," which actually might have happened at points, but the band pretty much has assumed, even though it is a band, because Casey's done his own stuff. He's on her astronaut and did the symphony. But the Deer Hunter begins and somewhat ends with, I don't know if we would even have the Deer Hunter in any shape or form, also like a tribute, without Casey, of course, because he's the writer and mostly the writer. So he still is kind of the captain of the ship. But it's very kind of reality twisting. They're going into like another dimension. Time is hard to figure out where they are. Um, and I mean, people are either gonna love it or hate it or question. It's definitely a film. It's more of a film than a documentary. It's like Exit to the Gift Shop in a way, where it'd be warrant seeing it multiple times. Now, I mean, some of it is kind of just farcical, or a bit of a sort of, how do you take it seriously? What are you getting out of it? But if you look at it through the lens of, this is sort of an artistic, left of center, avant garde approach to making, what would be the band in a sense, on a trip. What happens when they meet this guy Glebe? They even meet his like alter ego. They call, it was Max who calls 911, and then he ends up meeting with someone else who, and you see stuff in his van. It's played by the same guy who played Glebe, Justin. But yeah, I don't know when it's going to be available, but the music in it was a big part of it, although it was mostly, except the last track, was instrumental. As I posted on the community page, um, there's going to be two different releases. I haven't seen anything in the last week about it yet. I don't know, maybe there has, but I haven't. But one's going to be a soundtrack that will probably just be digital to whatever the 2023 North American documentary film. And then the other one's going to be an EP of songs that were used in the film but not in the format, and that's going to be probably issued as a physical release for the Deer Hunter. And that's really more where a lot of the replay value might be with the music that's heard or done in this period. None of those songs are going to be on Sunya, the next part of the Indigo Child, or Antimai. It's the Indigo Child world, but they did like one or two songs on that tour from Sunya, and that tour, and then like the tours they've done since. But yeah, I liked it. I appreciated it, even though it's not what I expected. I don't know if time will be so. It might be one of those things where it's revered through time, or it might just be kind of a blip. Like, why did they do that? Like, sort of like when you hear something like when that Clip 1918 album came out. Like, I've been waiting. It was so much different. Thought, oh, maybe I'll appreciate more. I was like, no, but I appreciate their ambition, doing something different, somewhat creative. The animation, the effects. The guy who plays Glebe, while he's good, that's the real question. If you're going to watch it 25 times, I may watch it two or three different times and just maybe try to retain more, just to see to hear some of the other music until that stuff comes out. But it's probably gonna come out at some point. It's not currently available on demand to stream on the Deer Hunter Pillars though, Pillar page, but it's gonna probably end up being distributed through some of the streaming services. Casey mentioned in the Q&A he didn't want it immediately or come out before. He wanted it on the Pillar because he didn't want someone to find it just on like a Roku like list of new films or something, and um but it's going to come out eventually, but I don't know if it will always be available through the Pillar. It might be. But if you're really into them, you knew about it, you probably would have seen it, sort of watched it on one of these three screens they did, or the one in Seattle like a month ago. But yeah, I liked it. I want to see it again, even though it was different. I look at it as more of a film, and there's like 45 minutes of footage that may come out eventually. And it's gonna probably come out as a Blu-ray too. So transitioning into one or two other topics. I mean, today is also the 30th anniversary, not only of Thud, but also of the Tea Party's um uh The Edges of Twilight, the official third album for the Tea Party, Canada's own power trio, Jeff Martin and Burroughs. I forget the other member, but anyway, Edges of Twilight, my favorite, and a lot of people's favorite, has Sister Awake. So that came out the same day officially as Kevin Gilbert's Thud, which I did the whole Thud track series, of course, last year. And I was just revisiting some of that stuff, and it's the Waiting demo mix #1. That may be my favorite track on there. I love that. But and then of course I posted in the last video about the Kevin Gilbert stuff, the other KMG archives that are gonna come out relatively soon, I would think, and then the other stuff. But happy 30th anniversary to Thud. I have it right here. I have actually two copies, but 30 years. 30 March 21st, 1995. My book here, right there. Yeah, I still hope to plan to do that, as much as that was a real time consuming thing. It is something I'm still proud of. So to do the same thing for The Shaman of the True could really warrant the same level of appreciation and proudness, or whatever lack of a better way to put it. So I want to talk about something else, another film though. So unfortunately, I found out, and I hadn't thought about this person in a long time, but she's from Belgium, but I think most of her acting was done in the French sort of industry, that particular area of film in Europe and in France specifically. There's a lot of among all the European films that I've watched, and I haven't watched a ton, but I do like. I used to watch IFC and Sundance specifically, sometimes Indieplex as well. My batting percentage, my batting average was probably higher for enjoying foreign films than it was for Hollywood. Now, even independent, depending on, but um, yeah, French. There's a number like Cachet is one that I really like. Um, Wrong Side Up, which is a translation. No, that was Czech actually, but Cachet I believe was French. But Gerard Depardieu. There's a few like obvious. There's a few others. What's her name? Audrey Tauto's movie, which I'm blanking on, which became like a cult classic. But one of the several films I caught 20, 25 years ago when I was by myself and I watched a lot of movies on cable. Sometimes I'd rent them on either Sundance or Independent Film Channel. Probably was a movie called Rosetta with the lead actress. She's only 19 at the time. I guess when it was filmed. It came out in 1999. This Belgian actress named Emilie Duquenne, Dequenne. And I don't know if this might have been her debut, Rosetta, but it was. I mean, it wasn't like my favorite movie ever. It wasn't my favorite foreign film ever necessarily, or favorite independent. I mean, Signs of Sleep is considered foreign. A lot of it's in French. Not all of it, but a fair amount of it is. But unfortunately, she died some form of glandular cancer. And she's been acting frequently, up until recently. So, um, I had one point where I was seeking out, like Juliette Binoche was one. She might be French. I think she is. I was really into Juliette Binoche for various reasons. She's attractive. She's a good actress. There's other reasons, but I never really seeked out the follow up career, filmography of Emilie Duquenne. I hope I'm saying that right, but Rosetta specifically itself. So Rosetta is actually on HBO Max, and I have access to HBO Max. So I went and watched it for the first time probably in well over 20 years. I don't remember when I saw. I don't think I saw it in '99. I did not. Actually, I did not. I'm certain of that. Pretty certain. But it was probably 2001, 2002, 2003, somewhere in the early to mid 2000s. I saw it, and it was one of many films. Maybe I'll try to do a. I wanted to do more on movies. I want to do the movies of the year, but I could just do 10, maybe not top 10, but 10 or 20 of my favorite independent and international or foreign films. You can call it foreign, just international films. And Rosetta would definitely be like in the top 20, might even be the top 10. It does have an ambiguous ending. I mean, it's spoil it too much, but it's sort of a story about a young woman, although I think she's post high school, I would guess, but she's not. I mean, she was whatever she was, 19 at the time, so she's probably playing a character, um, probably pretty close to an age to her real age. Her character's name is Rosetta, of course, and she's living with her mother in like this trailer park, and her mother has all sorts of problems. We don't get a lot of background how it led, like the background of her mother and her upbringing, her childhood, how she was raised, or even her father, really isn't brought up and explored. That wasn't important to the story. I'd like to read some interviews if I could. A lot of them are in French, of course, but her mother has lots of problems. She's a drinker. She suffers from alcoholism, and in order to actually sort of, because she doesn't have a job really that we can really tell, and her health is problematic, but in order to actually try to make ends meet, she ends up basically prostituting herself out to different people, including the landlord, the person who owns the property that their trailer home is on. And Rosetta just is just irate about this. So at the same time, Rosetta's trying to figure out what to do, how to maybe help her mother or just make things okay for her to live there. And so she's looking for a job. And there's like this waffle stand. It's like a food truck. This was in the late 90s. I assume it's set in that modern day at that point. And, I mean, food trucks have, per se, the hot dog truck downtown, like downtown St. Paul, downtown New York City, you see that in like the Odd Couple. Food trucks per se have been around, but they didn't become in vogue per se, at least in America. Maybe they were more popular in France and in parts of Europe, more so, but they really weren't like the kiosk, food, vendor of sorts until probably about a little over 10, maybe it was 15 years ago, probably 15 years ago. So it feels like because this food truck is a big deal, a big kind of plot device or one part of the plot. She wants to like find a job, so she wants to see if she can work there. She sort of is addicted to these waffles. So she ends up meeting this guy there. But she doesn't get a job right away, but eventually does get to work there. But the owner of the waffle truck, in effect, they sell beer and waffles. It's like I don't know if that's what it's called, but he like he hires another guy that kind of befriends Rosetta. Eventually lets her work there, although and he teaches her how to make the waffles and stuff like that, of course. But he befriends her, but nothing romantically ever fully develops. I mean, she's so kind of introverted and not introverted. She's very closed in about being happy. She's rarely all that happy and inspired, and she's very stressed out about her life, even when she starts doing the waffles. So even when she's spending time with him, because she's having conflict with her mother, and her mother keeps on prostituting herself out to these guys to get paid, and keeps drinking, and so she ends up spending time with this coworker guy, not the guy who owns it, but a younger guy who has a motorbike. But then she finds out because he's running the waffle and beer truck some of the time when the owner's not aware of. He's actually making the waffles at home and he could sell more. He basically is scamming the owner, in effect. The details, watching it again, I can't remember every single detail of the reason, but it kind of makes sense. So what ends up happening, and spoiling a little bit, I still recommend seeing it, but she ends up seeing, well, because he says he doesn't have the hours, the owner, for her, and she needs the money, and so she ends up basically outing him and then getting the gig. And then he's pissed off at her. He even comes and buys a waffle from her that day that she's working. And then she just decides, I can't do this. But, so neither of them work at the waffle truck. And he ends up coming back and just harassing her. But nothing like super, super violent. In fact, there's one point he was helping her out, like in a body of water, like a lake or like a pond near where she lives. And then he ends up in the water and he's like drowning. And she is thinking about just letting him drown, but then she decides not to. Maybe she thought, well, yeah, if he drowns, I get his job. Because this is desperate. She's like lower class, even though her health and her sort of appearance isn't like terribly, terribly like awful. She didn't look like this complete and utter like tortured peasant or homeless person. She's not at that level, but she definitely is at the like maybe the level up just up from that. And so she's desperate to have any job. She's asking around thinking she can get a job at like a clothing store, like she can sell stuff. She's been selling stuff. So it's kind of bleak and melancholy, but you really feel for her. I watched this movie. I remember when I saw it, whenever it was 23, 24 years ago, whenever that was, thinking I wish I could just do something for her. I was definitely not in the same position as her, but I could relate in some ways of being sort of lonely, being sad that the world isn't fair, and her situation. But my situation wasn't that difficult, although I dealt with a few things. Depression among other things. But there was one thing with the whole thing with the pond. She was like using hooks in like a glass bottle to catch fish, and she did, but like she put it in and then she gets it, and they're saving time to do that. You see the fish in the bottle. Okay, so she caught the fish. Then it looked like she threw it back. And then the same thing happened. She caught a bigger fish. think the same thing happened. Why wouldn't you either A, use the fish to like make at home for food, for like, sustenance and whatever, or sell the fish or something? I don't know. I don't really know fully the reason behind that process. Why was she catching the fish? Just for sport? I don't think she was doing that, but um and it kind of ends in an ambiguous ending. We don't. She's getting um gas, and my wife was watching with me. She was not interested in it that very much, but she was like, "Well, is she getting the gas because her mom was like laid up and like almost like she was gonna die." She dragged her inside, and she'd been maybe drinking or something again. She looked like she could have been dead or about to die. She was kind of maybe asleep or kind of passed out, but it's like, well, instead of getting the gas because they have a gas stove and stuff to make food on their stovetop, she was gonna burn it down because she was just so annoyed by the owner and everything that's going on in her life. She quits the job. She doesn't want to do that, but she does it. And then the character, the guy who plays the guy who worked there, I forget his name. I should pull that up. Rike, maybe? I think it was Rike, played by Fabrizio Rangioni. Yeah, I think. Or maybe it was Florian Delane, the boss's son. That may be who it was. Yeah. One of the two. The guy who worked at the waffle truck that she basically outed, that was pissed off at her, that befriended her originally. At one point they were eating French toast at her place and he was trying to dance with her, and she also had some health, like her when she got her menstrual period. I think that was part of what she was dealing with. So that was part of it, just her overall mood and mentality throughout many of the scenes. But um, she's at the very end of the movie. She's struggling to lug this gigantic tub of for gas. I guess it's for gas or probably gas. And then he's circling her and just bugging her, stalking her, kind of and trying to intimidate her. She just drops down on the ground and starts crying, and that's it. So you kind of make up what you want about. It's one of those ambiguous endings, but so anyway, that's a long, sort of relatively detailed review of Rosetta. And she won like a Cannes Film Festival, like Best Actress award, I believe, and it was her best work, Emilie Duquenne. Um, but she did several other things. But I read one interview about Hollywood, and she never did Hollywood because she didn't like the way Hollywood films were made, like the style of films. I'm sure she could have, especially after winning that award, and how Rosetta did reach a lot of people. She could have probably done some stuff in Hollywood and made a more lucrative living for herself, but she didn't want to. So she did, I don't know, like 40 or 50 filming credits she's got. How many credits she has on IMDb? She did some television, but she worked with John Malkovich in a movie. Well, she did something Brotherhood of the Wolf. That was a movie, but I know she did something with John Malkovich. And several other movies. I don't know how many times she was the lead. She's got 61 credits actually on IMDb, but most of them, and some of them are TV miniseries, maybe even some short films. Most of them are are French. Even though again she's from Belgium, but I think she lived in France. I think the news about her passing away was that she was in France. But I feel sad not only for her it was her first thing, Rosetta. Sad for her passing, especially. Of course, she was only 43 years old. Um, uh, Emilie Duquenne, but I feel bad that I didn't like see her movies in real time. If I was more invested like I used to be with the independent film industry, I probably would have found more of her films. But ever since met my wife, especially, and moved out of my apartment, and I just haven't had time. I haven't watched nearly as much independent film as I would like to. I was like kind of very passionate and consume almost as much as music. At one time, more. I've always said, someday when I don't have like obligations, I just want to watch movies, and especially independent and foreign films. I mean, you'll see some bad stuff, of course. I would definitely go for doing other things besides that, reading, that kind of thing, but and do writing of my own and creating. But film is something that I have a very big passion for. That music, it kind of takes a backseat to music. I love television, of course, too, but yeah, I want to now start trying to find some of her other movies that she's seen, that she was in. Just even though she just passed away, it's reason to, it's better late than never while I'm still around. So Um, so that's about it. I think I'll do a separate video on the. I was gonna do an update on the calendar, the new music calendar releases. I'll do that in a separate video, but thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.